So far in this Django CRUD Web Application tutorial, we have created a Django project and a Django application. Now we are ready to start creating the CRUD functionality for our Django Web Application. So we start with the read part of the CRUD part. So CRUD is short for create, read, update and delete, and then I choose to start with the read part of the CRUD functionality. So far we have created this Django company app. So far we have just created a startup page saying this is a company page, hello, welcome to the company page. And now we will add CRUD functionality step by step from scratch. We will use this SQLite database which is included with Django. So we will start with the read part of the CRUD functionality. So in our startup page, we will just add a hyperlink to a new page called customers, which you see here. And in this web page, we will create the read functionality. So basically here we have a list of customers that are stored in our SQLite database. So this is what we are going to create in this part of the tutorial. So the first thing we need to do is to create a so-called model in Django that interact with the database, and we will use that model to list the data here on this new web page or template that we are going to create in this part of the tutorial. So let's start to create the model that we need to use in order to interact with the database. So in Django we have three different parts. We have what we call views, which is created in views.py, and then we have templates, which is a folder where we create the different templates inside that subfolder, and then we have models that are created in this file called models.py. So far it's empty, and just comment here, create your models here. So then we do that, and then a model in Django is basically just a Python class. So then we use this class name in order to create a model. And as shown in the web page that we are going to create, we are going to list the different customers for our company. So then we just create a class and call it customer like this. And then as an argument here, we just need to use models dot model like this. Yeah, and of course it needs to be a lowercase or class like this, and then we need to have a semicolon here like this, and now we can start creating the model called customer. So as shown on the web page, we are going to list the first name, the last name, email, phone and address for the different customers. So then basically we just need to create these variables. First name equals to then models, and here we need to define the different data types. So the first name typically char field, and then here you can specify the size of this char field. You can use this one, max length equals to 100 or something, a typically good length for our first name. So that's the first name. You can do the same for the last name. So I just basically copy it and then change it to last name. And use the same here, model max length 100. The same for email. So I just copy and change it to email. Also here I can use the max length 100, and then we have the phone. Change it to phone. Max length here, it could be 15 or something. Typically phone length of a phone number. And finally, you can also have a field for the address of the customer. And here we can also use char field, or another alternative is to use text field like this, not comma but dot like this. So basically that's the different fields in our model called customer: first name, last name, email, phone and address, like this. We can also, I will explain this later, but typically you need to define this. So since this is a class, and then when we use this class as an object, we need to have a specific return value, and it could be a combination of the first name and the last name, like this. So this is typically used when you have a return value from we create an object of this this class customer, and you typically need to print it or something. Then we need to typically have a return value. It could be, in this case, a combination of the first name and the last name. This underscore should be there like this. So now we have actually created our first model in Django called customer, and this is a representation of the data that will be stored later in the SQLite database. So that's a model called customer. So now we also need to create another view. We have already created a view for the company, which is used on the front page or start page. So now we need to do the same for the customer. So then we just define, create a new Django or Python method here in use.py. You can call it customers. And as previously, we need to have a request as an input. And now we need to create an object of that model we just created. So we specify create a customer equals to customer, but before we can use the customer class or model here in the views, we need to import it. So then from dot models import customer like this. And now we can specify here customer dot objects dot all like this. And as in the previous company view, we need to create a template. So far we haven't created the actual template yet, so we will create that later here in the templates folder. So here we will create a new template called customers.html. So template equals to this loader get template like this, and then the name of the template. So far we haven't created it, but we will later create a new template called customers.html like this. So now, and also we need to have a return value. Also here, since we are now sending the model to this customer template, we need to specify like this. We need to have a context equals to these brackets here. We need to specify a context called, in our case, is this customer. So that's the actual name, and here we specify the customer object that we have created here. Like this. That is the context, and now we can use this return HTTP response template dot render, and this function has different inputs or arguments you can use. So here we need to specify the context, which we have defined here, and the actual request. So the request and the context, which we have defined here, will be sent further to this template called customers.html, which we haven't created yet, but that's the next step, to create this customers.html template. But that's the view. So now we have created the model in models.py, which you see here, and we have created another view in views.py, which is created here, called customers, and we have created this an object of this customer model that we send further to this customers.html template that we are going to create in the next step of this tutorial. Before we start creating the template, we also need to update this urls.py. So here we have already created a path for the company, so now we need to do the same for the customer. So then just path customers like this, comma views dot customers, comma, and name should be customers like this. So now we have two URL paths, one for the startup page company and one for the sub page, which we are going to create now, called customers.html. So that's the urls.py. Next, we need to then create a new template here in the templates folder. We right click, create new file, and then we call it just customers.html like this. So far it's empty, but now we are going to create a web page containing HTML table that contains the data from the model that we have specified here, namely first name, last name, email, phone, and address. So to save some time, I just open this company.html. I just copy that one and use that one as a starting point for our customers.html. So I then change the title to customers, and then the header one here, company page, I change it to customers, and then the paragraph. Here you see a list of customers from our database or something. And then next we need to create a table. So let's just use the table, which is part of HTML. And then we need to create the first row. So then we have PH for header, the header row, like this. So TR, which is the first. And then we need to put the headers inside here, like this. Then we want to show the first name, last name, etc. So I just copy it. This should be the last name, email, phone, and address. So I just change it to last name. This should be the email, phone, and finally address, like this. So it's the same as you see here in our model. We have first name, last name, email, phone, and address. And that's the data we want to show here in this customers.html inside our table. So that's the header row. Now we need to create the different rows for the different customers. So far there are no customers in our database, but we will create some customers in the database later. But first we just need to use this Django syntax like this for customer in customers, like this, and also a person sign here. This means it will go through a loop retrieving all customers that are stored in our database. So far we haven't created any database or any data in our database, but we have created a model like this. And also in our view we are sending this context, which is basically this an object of this customer class or customer model, as an input to our customers.html file, which we create here. That's why we can use this syntax, this Django syntax, in our HTML web page. And then we use tr like this, and then we use td, one for the first name, one for the last name, email, phone, and address. And here we can use this syntax, which is Django syntax. So here we just use customer, which is here. So then we retrieve the first customer which is stored in the database, and then we just type dot, and then we can specify first name like this. And then I do the same for others, for the last name, email, etc. So I just copy it 5 times. This, and I change this one to last name like this. First, last name. This should be email. This one should be phone, and this one should be address, like this. So now it just iterates through the different records that we later will create in our database, showing the first customer with his first name, last name, email, phone, and address. And finally, we also need to have this to end this for loop. So then we type here end for like this. So basically this is a Django or Python for loop iterating through the different records that will be stored later in the database. So the next step now is to create the contents of the database. So if you see here in our folder, here is our Django project. Here it is the database itself, db.sqlite3. That's the actual database, SQLite database. But we need to be able to browse the contents of this database. And in order to do that, we can download a software called SQLite Studio. So just Google it. It's a free software that you can download and use for free on the internet. So basically, search for SQLite Studio. Then you will go to the home page of the software, and then just click the download button. I have already installed it, so I just open it here in my Windows, SQLite Studio, which you see here. and then I just need to connect to my database. So I use this button here, connect to the database. So I click on this connect button. First, before I can connect to the database, I need to add the database. So I select this one, add database. So database type SQLite 3. Select an existing database file. So then I just click here, and then I go to my folder, which is Web and my virtual environment and Django project 1. And here is this db.sqlite 3. I select it, click OK, and then I can just right click, connect to the database. And then you see, so far it's empty. So now we need to create the necessary tables, including our customer table, which we have defined here as a model in Django. So in order to do that, in order to create a database table of our customer model, we need to do a procedure called migrate. So then we go to our terminal, and we do that by entering the following command here in the terminal. Python manage.py make migrations, like this. Click enter, and now you see there's migrations for company, create model customer, etc. And also here you see it has been created a folder called migrations, where some preliminary files has been created. And the next step is to do the actual migration by using Python manage.py and just type migrate like this. And then after a few seconds, and then you can go back to our SQLite Studio. Right click here to refresh, and you see different tables has been created for us. So there has been created 11 different tables called auth, group permission, user, etc. All these tables are part of the Django system, in addition to our table called customer. So when we create a model called customer, it will be created a table called company_customer, where company is the name of our Django application, because in a project we can have multiple applications. So then by default Django creates a prefix with the application name. So then the table here in SQLite will be called company_customer in our case. So before we enter some data here in this SQLite Studio into our customer table, let's just run our application. So we type here, previously, Python manage.py and then run server like this. And then you can go back to our web page. So here's the front page, company, and then now if you also have these customers like this. So now we have the front page called company, and then we have the sub page called customers. So far you see, you can go back to the customers template, which you have here. This has a title, which is customer, and it has a header called customers, and here you see a list of customers from our database. But so far it's only showing the header row, because there are no data inside our database. So let's see how we can insert some data into our database. So here in the query editor, we can run a query like this, an SQL query. Select all from company_customer, click run, and then see it's empty. Then we can start by creating some data by using this insert statement. Insert into company customer like this. And then we need to specify the different columns. First name, last name, email, phone, and address like this. And then values, and here we need to specify the values itself. Start with the first name. It could be Elvis. Last name could be, in this case, Presley. Email, elvis.presley@usa.com or something. Like this. A phone, let's create a phone number as well. 111, you need to have it 111. And finally, we need our address as well. So just make it a little bit bigger. Address, it could be USA or something. So now we want to insert this customer named Elvis Presley with his email address, phone number, and address like this. So then just click, select this one, click execute, and now I can use this select statement, and then you see there has been created a customer inside our database like this. Now we can go back to the web page. I can click refresh, and so far it's nothing happened here, so let's see what's wrong. Yeah, there's some error in the code here. So here in this customers.html, here I've used for customer in customers. So that's the name that should be used in the views here. So then customers like this, and also here context customers, customers like this, and I save it. And then you see we get the information from the database. So now we have the front page, company page, and then we have this sub page called customer, where we list the customers from the database like this. So basically now we have created the read part of the CRUD feature. Of course there are some improvements to be made. One thing would be to have a hyperlink here on the start page to the customers page. So let's see how we can do that. Then I just open this company.html. So here in I can add hyperlink or something. So here you see our customers or something. Here you find yeah. Then you just create a hyperlink here. Like this, and then href equals to, and then we just type slash customers to this customers subpage like this. Guess that should be it. So then you save it, go back here, click refresh, and then here you see our customers. I can click, so you can now close this one. So here's our main application, our company application, 127.001.800/company, and here we have this link to the customers. I click on this one, and then it opens this slash customers page like this. You can also add more records in the database. We go back to the SQLite Studio. So now we have one customer. We can add another one. term for something, double, like this. He has phone number 2222, also in USA. So then now select all from company, and now we have 2 customers in the database, Elvis Presley and Donald Trump. And then we can also refresh our page here, where you see we have 2 different customers in our database. So that's the read functionality of the CRUD part. We can also improve our web pages. We can include something called bootstrap, etc. So let's see how we can do that. So we have these 2 web pages, or templates as it's called in Django. We have company.html and customers.html. This is the startup page, and this is the sub page for the customer table. And then in order to use Bootstrap, we basically can just include some included here in the head section, like this. So basically we just include the scripts for the Bootstrap library, like this. And now when we have included these lines both in the company.html and in customers.html, like this, click save, and then we can click refresh here, and you see the layout is changing according to the Bootstrap default layout. Also open this customer page, so you see the fonts, etc. has been changed. We can also format the table a little bit. So here in this customers.html file, we can here in the body we can add some classes. So div class, and this is part of the Bootstrap. So then container fluid pt5. This is just the size of the like this, not div of course. Like this here in just after the body, and also for the table which we define here, we can also use a div here. Div class equals to something called table responsive, and then for the table we can also use a class of table class, and then we use the table class in Bootstrap like this. Click save. Click save, and then click refresh here like this. Yeah, missing some end tag here like this, and then put that div in the bottom here, div end like this. Click save and click refresh, and then you see we got a nice layout for our table where we are showing the data from the database. So basically, in order to include Bootstrap to improve the layout of our pages, you see here is some space here, so you can also include that space here in the company page. Then we just need to include that line also in the company.html here under the body, like this. Click refresh, and now you see the start page. It looks like this. You can click customer here, and then we go to this page where we see a table of data that are stored in our database. Basically, that's the read part of the CRUD functionality. In the next part, we are going to create the create part of the CRUD functionality.